You're listening to the #1 podcast for oil and gas professionals. What's up? Mike Fry, President and CEO at Deepwater Subsea. I am here with Dallas Bozeman.
Hey, what's happening?
How you doing, D?
Doing good, man.
Good. We got two special guests. Before we jump into the interviews, I have to say I accidentally hit the stop button. So Kevin and JD, we went through the introductions, but Kevin Moyne with Recess Environmental Consulting, and JD Castle. We're going to be talking about leadership and organizations and just really what does it take to be successful as a small business in today's world, and how it really comes down to the people and the leadership that you have in your organization. So I apologize for kind of catching midstream. We lost about 4 minutes of the interview, but here we go. Hope you enjoy it.
But you when you get into business, and my business, Recess Environmental Consulting, has been in business 14 years now, serving the oil and gas, chemical, and petrochemical industry. We come back, and no matter what business you're in, you find out that you're in business of people and business of business. And what makes a business great, it starts with a culture. And I know when you get a small business, when first starting out, your focus is, okay, I need to get to work. I need to get the stuff moving, need to hire the right people. And you're just in that mode. And maybe you're not paying attention as much to the culture. And I know I was there. And now more and more we're finding out that, it's all about the culture. And I'm glad to see that you've started out, paying attention on the set with that. And that goes a long way. And you can see it, and hear in people's, like such as Dallas, how much he enjoyed and learned from this. You can just hear it in his voice. And it's just pleasure to see that. Pleasant to see that.
No, it's great. Tell me a little bit about, just real quick, I mean, what does your organization do? A little bit about your background.
Well, basically, we're environmental engineers. So we help our clients, as I said, in the petrochemical, chemical, oil and gas industries to stay in compliance with all the rules and regulations on the state and the federal level on the environmental side. So that basically our strong suit is air quality permitting and compliance, water and wastewater permitting and compliance. We don't really do a whole lot of haz waste. That's a whole different beast, but we do have people that we work with. We can, obviously bring them in if we need to, but that's essentially the in a nutshell is what we do. And we're the liaison basically between our clients and help them, sleep better at night. I tell people I'm sleep therapy because I help people sleep better at night. And that's because, you got such a huge amount of regulations, very complex regulations on the state and federal level that are on top of you if you're in any kind of business, in manufacturing, chemical or otherwise, that really the complexity, you really have to reach out and get into the expertise of various people that can come in and, make you, be very efficient and effective in serving your doing what you do every day without having to worry about, am I going to get inspected? Am I going to be able to pass? That's what it's all about, helping people.
No, that's great. I think what's interesting is I loved hearing you talk about being sleep therapy. We talk about it similar, like we're like your bodyguard. We are here to protect you from the possibility of incidents of noncompliance, right? For the government to come out and say, hey, you're not doing your job.
Right.
If I know what the government's going to be looking for, I know what they're going to be inspecting for, let me go out and support you and do that before they show up. If I know that dad's going to look under the bed, I'm going to look under the bed as soon as I get home, but I'm going to make sure that your bed stays clean underneath. That way, when we disappear, Bessie shows up every 2 weeks. Like just because today, this snapshot, everything was good, what happens 2 weeks from now after we leave? It's helping to train the culture and helping guys really understand, hey, look, regulations are there for a reason. Right. And unfortunately, the old saying, like, you can't fight City Hall. When it comes to regulations and compliance, that's a City Hall you don't want to try to fight. It's easier you'll spend more energy trying to fight it than you will just doing it.
Yeah. So again, let me ask you this, kind of two questions in one. One, what's the difficulty of managing people? You have offices in Texas and California. What's the challenge of managing not only your people being a half a continent away, but those state regulations that differ between Texas and California?
Actually, it's a good question, Dallas. we've got offices. We're present here in Texas and California. However, we've done permitting in 24 states. So we've had clients that have had installations in many states. And you're right. Although the regulations are different from state to state, but the intent and a lot of the similarities, because everything comes down from EPA, and EPA delegates that to the different states. So in that sense, it's kind of like somebody that knows programming, but they can write in a different language if they just know the syntax.
That's right.
So that's the best analogy I can give you. So it is challenging, and what we find the challenge comes down not to understanding the regulations or working the regulations, but in working with the different mindset and culture, if you will, of the different agencies and the different people in industries and our own employees. So it's a people challenge, as I mentioned, and if you can just kind of have a sense of a culture and a helping attitude and outreach, then people are on board. Hey, these guys, you're the good guy. We want to make our clients, represented as they're trying to be proactively doing the right thing to protect the environment, and do it in the right way, do the right thing, and that goes a long way. That attitude goes a long way, and that's what we really help them understand as well.
So JD, not leaving you out.
No,
just we invite JD and we just kind of push him to the side. No, I'm just teasing. So we've known each other for a few years.
Yep.
JD was really instrumental in kind of opening our eyes up to some technology when he was at his previous employer. But tell me about your background, JD. You have a master's degree, and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you have a PhD, right?
Yep.
Sorry, geez. In education.
Yeah, organizational leadership.
Okay. What do you think about when you hear us talking about people and customer support from the side that you come from? You have the PhD in it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see when you're interacting with people, both from a sales and now with what you're doing in your new role?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. It is all about people, and the challenge is to organize the team, make teams functional, and it's been touched on a couple of times about culture, the culture of the organization. I think the thing that's overlooked so much is the lack of understanding by the leadership that they design the culture either consciously or subconsciously. They don't have to say things. Their actions that they do, their persona in the midst of the company will define what the culture is. And I don't think the leaders today take enough of an active role in directing toward a culture. It occurs, and if they're happy with it, fine. If they're not, then they say we need to do something. But they look at it more as a analytical step process instead of a long-term establishment process.
And it's interesting because I've used the story before in some of the conferences I've spoke at. I said, corporate management will say something and everybody will pump their fists and like, yeah, that's awesome. And as soon as that helicopter leaves, rig leadership's like, we're not doing that.
Yep.
And that's where the problem comes in is if you really want to change the culture at any workplace, any company,
yes,
it's truly the frontline leadership that makes the difference. Because if you have that supervisor that says, these are the rules, these are the way it's going to be done, we're going to follow them, I don't care what the previous guy did, you will see a very quick shift in the way, especially in a performance standpoint and even compliance and training and everything else. But I think what gets missed is everybody wants to blame everybody else instead of taking a look in the mirror and going, maybe I am the problem. And it happens a lot without even you thinking about it, because it's as soon as, if you have a subordinate that comes to you and says, hey, what do you think about this? I think it sucks. Well, then he's like, well, if Mike thinks it sucks, then it must suck. And like, I don't know why we're doing this. And if you're negative to a policy or a procedure, or, like, oh, the company says we have to do this. Oh, don't worry about fall protection. You're not going to fall. Well, then guess what? I leave, the next guy comes in, and it's like parenting. It's like generations of, this is the way our family's always done it.
That's right.
That's what we hear all the time on the rigs. And I'm sure you hear it, Kevin, in the facilities, is this is how we do business here. But it's not right though. And like, where did you get that mindset? And until you figure out where the mindset comes from, you'll never change the culture. And Dallas, you probably saw this a lot dealing with where you came from with EOD and that mindset of the locals.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And to JD's point, which I kind of want to pose a question to you now about it, is especially in this industry, we find that a lot of people want to talk about organizational change. They want to talk about cultural change, but we continue to take a systemic approach to it. We put programs in place. We put analytics in place to figure out how things are going. From the background I came from, especially working with indigenous forces and people of different cultures, we found that the only way to really incite a cultural change was through relational equity. You had to build trust. You had to work hand in hand. You had to get some personal buy-in and also put some skin in the game yourself. So from your organizational background, how much of a role do you feel that mentorship plays in that organizational and cultural change, as opposed to the systemic side of actually having kind of the bones to it and the analytics?
I think it's primary. I don't know to what percentage. I guess it depends on the situation, but the leadership role is so pivotal today. If you look at some of the key organizations that have done, and they've had tremendous leaders, and you see the organizational structure they have and the growth they've had, Jack Welch, for example. But to go a little bit deeper on a different tangent, ownership. A leader has to drive the culture to the point that the employees take ownership of what they're doing. It's not a job. It's something that they own, that they possess it. They take care of what they're doing. They don't do something based on knowing it's going to get checked on in 2 weeks. They do it because it's the right thing. They understand what they're doing. They understand why they're doing it, and they know it, and they know they need to do it, and they want to do it. A good leader will build that sense inside the employees and the followers. A good leader will make a follower want to follow the leader, not because he has to, but because they respect him, they know he's right, and they want to follow.
And Ken, especially with you having, working across, 24 different states, 2 offices, with that mentorship and kind of developing that culture, how big of a role and how much of a challenge is communication working across those wide gaps like that?
Oh, it's all about communication, and as human beings, I think that's one of our biggest handicaps is communication. We pride ourselves in communication. We can talk, and the animals cannot. But I think we're short on communication, and the technology these days has helped us quite a bit. Quite frankly, our work would have been much more difficult if we didn't have the technology, the communication, immediate technology we're talking about earlier with Mike. It just helps tremendously. But I think when we talk about communication, we're not talking about how we communicate by phone or through the internet. I think we're talking about on a human level. How do you reach? How do you touch someone? How do you, as JD was saying, how do you get people as a leader to want to follow you? And that's I think what the challenge of any leader is, to create an environment, to create a culture where people are eager to take ownership. Because when you talk about ownership, what are you really saying? You talk about responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you guys, but I know a lot of people that really shy away from responsibility. Mm-hmm. So, but ownership sounds like you own something. It's a good way, a nice word of saying responsibility. So it takes a certain finesse to trying to figure out what it takes for a certain individual to take ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sorry, go ahead, JD.
No, it absolutely does. And on communication as well, I think a breakdown, people don't have a problem of launching a concept or communicating a concept. People have a problem with actively listening and understanding what the actual message is and capturing that. And I think there's a responsibility when we communicate to assure that the recipient understands what you're saying. Today, emails is so prolific throughout the industry, people will type in an email and send it, assuming that people know what you mean. In simple matters, are we going to dinner tonight? Yes or no? That's perfectly fine. A text message will work. But in more complex matters, where there's more dimensions to it, and it can be read different ways. I read an email and came back an hour later and saw something entirely different to it. So you have to be careful at your communication that the recipient is actually understanding what you're trying to say. I think there's a lot of breakdown in organizations because, well, I told this guy what to do. We've done this and done that, but he didn't hear that. He heard something else.
Yeah, I think that the challenge too, when you talk about the leadership and wanting to be that leader and what direction followers are going to go, there's too many people who show up thinking they're the Pied Piper. And it's like, you will follow me. And guys are like, you will go over the cliff by yourself. Like, there's no way that this is going to happen. One of the things that we do here, and I take, and a lot of CEOs might look differently at it. This place is crystal clear with transparency of what's going on. I keep nothing from the employees. Now, keep in mind, there's 11 of us, but if there's something that there should be concerned about, they know, because everybody is smart enough to figure out like something's not right. Something doesn't feel right. I'll go in the conference room and I'll just be like, hey, look, we all need to talk for a minute. And here's what's going on. Like this project that was supposed to happen might not happen. This new hire that we thought was coming, he's coming. But by the way, he's bringing tenfold of the business on the other side. But there's never that question of the freedom of speech. I do make the joke is like, look, you got all the autonomy in the world. Just understand that I also have the authority to comment back. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to be like, hey, Mike, this sucks, but be afraid to tell me. I'd rather have you tell me that, hey, this idea sucks, and go, okay, well, if 9 people think it sucks and 2 think it's great, maybe the 2 need to reevaluate where we're going with it. But when we're developing products and services, that's the way it works. And it's like, what do you guys think? And we do it all the time here. And I say all the time, I might be a bad business person when it comes in other people's eyes from the way we make decisions. But I always look at the end first. Like, what happens if we do this? What happens if we build this? What happens if that takes place? And I tell everybody, I want to know your no BS. Tell me what you think.
What's your gut?
Because if I'm going to run out into the street, I need to know that you support this.
Yeah.
Some of our marketing stuff, very in your face. I had an individual that came in that was going to be a new hire. I said, before you come on board, your role is going to be this possibly. Are you comfortable with the way I market the company? And he's like, what's your company? But your face is going to be out there just like mine is. Are you comfortable with the way this works? Yeah, I'm good with it. And so that the ownership, the customer, the employee ownership, we say that here. I want you to feel like it's your company. I want you to make a decision like it's your company. But we do it as a team.
That's excellent.
I think, that transparency is so important because like what you were talking about, JD, is so much gets lost in communication, especially in today's, social media and email and texting and all this, where there's no nonverbals, right? That's like 97% of our communication is nonverbals and gestures and tones. And none of that gets translated through a text message or an email because there's a big difference between me, just simply putting some words in a different order. If I came in and I said, hey, let's get the job done, but be safe. It's a lot different if I say, be safe, but let's get the job done. That has 2 completely different meanings, even though I used all the same words. So if I was to type that across in the email, who knows how it's going to be taken? It could be, completely out of context from what I'm actually trying to get across. So that transparency is so important, where we actually bring people in and have real conversations and let them know this is exactly where we are and have a clear, concise message throughout.
Absolutely. One of the things that hurts that process is the fact in the past, so many people, when something goes wrong or they see something wrong, they get chastised for it. They come in and say, hey, Mike, I'm sorry, it went this way, but here's what happened. And then they're like, holy smoke, what's he going to do? Is he going to blow a gasket or whatever? By being transparent and part of a team says, oh, man, that didn't work out good. What can we do to fix that? And we work together as a commonality. But the employees have to feel, even though it's transparent, they have to feel that trust and feel that it's not putting my neck out on the line by saying something. Maybe if I just be quiet about it, it won't be an issue. But you need to say, if you hit it on the head, Mike, you need to act like it's your own company. If you believe it's my company, how would I do things? Then there you have it.
And I think just real quick before Kevin speaks, when we were in the military, it was, if there's a problem, tell me. Like, just tell me, we'll deal with it. And unfortunately, you get to oil and gas, especially where everybody's fearful of their job, because that's the culture is, I'm going to find you did something wrong and I'm going to fire you. So everybody keeps it locked down. Like, I'm not going to tell, oh, I made a mistake. Well, I'm not going to tell what happened. Then you get it and it goes higher into the leadership where someone makes a bad decision and nobody wants to own it. It's like, whose idea was that crappy project? It was like, wasn't mine. It's like, wait a minute. It was your idea though. No, it was Dallas's idea. But you were the team lead for it. Not my fault. Like, blame Dallas. The thing that I think people also lack in this industry, and I'm not saying it derogatory, but it is that lack of ownership. You made a decision, you own it. And if it works, great. If it's bad, let's learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't make excuses. Like my wife and daughter heard this, she'd be screaming because it's like, oh, I hear that all the time. It's like, own it. You made a decision. Own it.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. Let's move forward with it, you know?
Yeah. And there was a couple of things I was going to say. One thing that JD said earlier was I could resonate with, and that was to be very specific. A leader has to be very specific in their instructions. And I believe perhaps beginning, starting out, I wasn't very, very specific, but learned to be, because things wouldn't happen if we were vague about it. To a point to now with my kids, my kids, they're adults actually, but they're telling me, Dad, you over elaborate.
Yeah.
And I think it came from the realization at the workplace that if you don't elaborate and if you're not specific enough, things are not going to happen the way you think. Like you mentioned too, Dallas, you said, people take different meanings if you say the wrong words in the wrong order. It's exactly right. I get that. And I think that's why we had a tendency to over elaborate. And so that's where it's at. Now, on the other side, when you talked about Mike, you said, I had a question for you. You said, how can you, my question is, how can you as a leader, in your opinion, to actually drive home the fact in employees in a small business for them to make decisions or act like they actually own the business. This is their company. I think that there's definitely an art to that too.
Yeah, no, I think for us, because it's regulatory driven, a lot of the decisions we make, my guys will come to me at all levels. I got very, very experienced people on our team, and I just want to confirm that this is right. And it's like, yes, the ownership part in it comes into, it's too easy to walk into. I'll give you an example. We had a person who was overly tired, won't mention any names, walked into the customer's office and the customer said, I need you to sleep in a 4-man room. He was in a 2-man room. He's like, you can put me on a chopper and send me home. Now the customer called me and said, hey, Mike, we have a problem. My answer back I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Like right now, we'll take care of it. I called my employee up and I said, let's talk for a second here. I said, you do realize the big picture of what you just said, right? Like you own your own business, right? Yeah. Would you tell your customer to go pack it? No. Why would you do that here? Well, you have to act like it's your own. Customer service is the priority. I say it all the time, customer satisfaction over profits. What I want the guys to understand is if they're doing the right thing, following the rules and regulations, following the company policies of how we do business, I will 100% stand behind you every time. If you go off onto your own, this is my opinion, this is what I think, kind of against the grain, then we'll have a different issue. But everybody in the company, I sent out a survey a couple of weeks ago and I asked 5 questions to the employees. Like you could walk in and say, hey, Dallas, I have a question for you. I sent out to everybody. Everybody gave me back. I said, I just want a quick sentence, just like, how would you answer this question? And I'm going to use it for marketing. Every employee had almost the exact same answers. Mm-hmm. Customer service, focus on deliverables, taking care of doing the right thing. Nobody talked to each other, but it was just nice that everybody came back with the same mindset, because that's the mindset here. And it's, if I'm going to drive the train, I'm here at 2:30, sometimes 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep. My employees know that this isn't a get rich quick. This is wanting to change the industry or help the industry, be better at what we do. My drive is not financially motivated. It is I carry the weight of the 11 mortgages that my employees and myself have, just like I had 11 mortgages. Mm-hmm. My hustle is for them at the end of the day. That's so awesome. Everybody takes that same kind of mentality. Yes, I know it's everybody. They say there's no I in team, but there is a me, mm-hmm. And so, yeah, everybody's out for themselves. But at the same time, while you're here, I want this to be your last company you work for. Mm. And so we treat everybody with that respect. And I don't think we do anything really. We don't force a culture. It's just, this is the culture, right?
Yeah. And when it comes to the empowerment piece, I think a lot of people look at empowerment and they hear it a lot, especially in leadership development. And they tend to think that empowerment is all about the person that you're trying to empower. You're trying to instill confidence. You're trying to bring them up to their capacity and what they're capable of doing. But what you've also got to realize is empowerment is also about freeing yourself. Whenever you empower individuals to take charge of something and take ownership from something, it frees you from one having to micromanage, but at the same time, you're taking your handcuffs off. You're not handcuffed to that person anymore, always responsible for the end product of whatever they're trying to produce. Now you're saying, I have confidence in you. Let me be free to go, build the business, to market, to do whatever it is I need to focus on because I trust you and I'm putting this responsibility on you to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think it's being a small business owner, especially in oil and gas, in any business, it's tough, but it all comes down to the people you surround yourself with. And we are very fortunate and blessed to have the people that we have on our team. The industry did me a favor by letting good, talented people sit around and say, look, I need to find another place to work. I'm tired of being an employee number. We talk about the Deepwater Subsea family. And I honestly feel that way. We have a gentleman who's looking to join the company. And I said, I want you to look around and talk to people before you join. Like, go talk to your peers and see what they think about us. And if you still want to join the company, come join the company. But it's really about trying to do something good for the industry, So, no, it's good. Kevin, tell us where we could learn more about your company.
Well, like I said, our focus is environmental consulting. We are asked by our clients, which, by the way, most of our clients we've had for over a decade. So we believe in relationship. We're there to serve them. And so because of that relationship, sometimes they ask us to do things that are not our core. Like, we'll do facility response plans and things like that. And we'll tell them, hey, look, that's not what we do. But because they confide in us and they know we're going to, do it, we'll do it for them. And that's why, I said earlier, they'd ask us to go into other states because they know we can, they
deliver.
They confide in us. They know we can do it and deliver, and they trusted us. They trusted us to go ahead and do that for them. And thankfully, so far, we haven't failed them. We continue to serve and to try to provide the best service we can. And you know what? Honestly, we don't sit there and promise some things that, we don't tell them, hey, we'll never make a mistake. We'll just, we're the best. And we're human. We'll tell them we're not superhuman. We will make mistakes. We have a very formal QC and peer review process at hand to avoid any mistakes. But you know what? We're not going to say it's 100% foolproof. It does happen. But if and when it does happen, we will be the first to admit it. In fact, we'll probably catch it ourselves before they catch it. And we'll, on our time and cost, we will fix it. So that's great. The only promise we can give them. We're not going to promise them the moon when we can't deliver it. This is the real world we live in. That's what we tell them. And I think they appreciate that, honest, pragmatic, stance that we have on things.
That's good. Do you guys have a website?
Yes, we do. It's Recess. And by the way, Recess, people say, where did you come up with this name? It stands for Reliant Environmental Consulting and Engineering Services. So it's actually an acronym. So we just say Recess Environmental now. It's shorter, but it's recess-llc.com.
No, it's good. That's good. Well, JD, what do you think?
I think it's all good. I think, Kevin, you hit on a really good point that we could have a whole nother cast on is trust. Establishing that trust. The people won't build the follower mindset unless they trust the leader. And you have to do that. And I think, what do you do? How do you develop trust? That's not something you come in and say, okay, everybody today on it's going to trust me.
Just trust me.
Yeah, trust me. It has to be a process, and people evaluate you when you're not even realizing it. You're being evaluated, and actions you take, and that will establish the trust over time.
Yeah, every day is an audition.
Every day is an audition.
It's interesting too. Just real quick, when you talk about the trust part of it, every decision that we make that has to deal with regulations, I show in black and white where I came up with a decision. So my employees know and my customers know, okay, it's not Mike's opinion. It's like, guys, look, I made this decision because here, and here. And then it's like, okay, it's not Mike's opinion. It's the federal regulations. And you can argue Mike's opinion, but you can't argue with the boys in blue when they show up on the rig, So But good. Dallas, any closing thoughts?
No, that was a good podcast.
That was one of the best ones I think we've done. Definitely when you guys come back to town, we'll have to continue this, because I think the message is important. It's about people. It's about customer service, but there's so many different ways that we could take it and just have a lot of fun with it. So good. Well, Dallas, you'll be here for the next one because it's next week. So
That's right. I'm still
we're
here.
going to keep pounding them out until we're done. So until the next one, guys, as always, and gals, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your support. Check us out, iTunes, YouTube, every other place we are. And, be safe, and we'll talk to you later.